عدنا مرة أخرى بحلقة جديدة ومفيدة بإذن الله. اليوم حلقتنا عن المراهق التوحدي، وهل نبلغ المراهق التوحدي إن فيك توحد ولا لا، وشلون ممكن نقول له، وشنو المشاكل أو ممكن التحديات بالأحرى اللي تواجهنا كأمهات لما الطفل يوصل لمرحلة المراهقة. فخليكم معنا وتابعوا الحلقة. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. مرحبا بكم في كوكب التوحد المرح. معاكم يلدا ومعاكم جودي الإنسانة الرائعة اللي راح تزودنا بالمعلومات، وهي BCBA Assistant. راح تاخذ الشهادة وتصير BCBA. I'm telling them what you're gonna do. راح نتكلم عن المراهق. So we're gonna talk about a teenager, autistic teenager. So
Have one.
You have one. Tell me, what was the most difficulty you faced?
Bullying.
Yeah.
Bullying's really bad. Just not being able to, and my son is verbal.
Yeah.
Very verbal, but he has social anxiety on top of autism.
Mm-hmm.
And so very shy, head down, just wanted to be left alone and being bullied all the time. The schools, because he was smart enough to be in general education classes, but when they bullied, he lashed out with aggression and physical aggression and throwing things and breaking things to the point where I eventually had to pull him out of school because it was not a safe environment for them because of his actions.
I don't blame him because he was getting bullied,
Yeah.
so he had to have a
Yeah.
reaction towards
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So, what did you do?
I tried talking to him, and he didn't want to hear it. He's a teenager. He didn't want to hear it. So I pulled him out of the school, and I got him diagnosis from his psychiatrist that school was not a good environment for him to be in mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And I had them do homebound services where the teacher came
To the house.
And that's been going on he's 17 now, so for quite a long time. Every year we try to go back to school, so we'll be trying again August 29th, back to school again, and see how long it lasts, because I want him to have social skills.
Yes, sure.
But if he's uncomfortable or if he's going to be violent and they're unable to accommodate that, then he's safer at home.
Yeah, true. I understand. I understand totally, because I have that fear too. And I don't know what to do, or, these kind of things that comes in your mind as a mother.
Yeah.
You don't know what's happening in the school, who's gonna,
That's right.
Yeah. So, tell me, what was your feeling when they told you your child was autistic? At the beginning, we're gonna go back.
I didn't know what it was.
Oh, like me.
I didn't have a clue. I was in construction. I was a project manager. I didn't know what that was. Never heard of it. Didn't know what ABA was. Didn't know what autism was. It wasn't a thing. This was in 2005. We really started hearing about it in the 90s, right? But only if it affected someone in your family or you.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of it. Didn't know what it was. I was like, well, what is it? What does it mean? Psh. And my dad, is from Kentucky. He was like, they didn't call us autistic the kids autistic back then. They just spanked them and went on about their business.
Yeah.
They just automatically think it's just a behavior thing. They just need a spanking. They just need a good spanking.
Oh, they choose to be like that.
Yeah. Oh, they just want to be like that. He chooses not to talk. He chooses not to eat anything but two foods, so I quit everything that I was doing and started studying. I went back to school I got a master's. It took me like 12 years because I was working 2 or 3 jobs, and
Yeah.
you know, but it took me 12 years to get my master's degree in it, but I learned everything I could.
That's really good, because I'm a theater major. I have my master's in theater. I have nothing to do with autism
Yeah.
or, you know, special education.
Mom was in construction.
Yeah. So do you enjoy it?
I love it. It's my calling. You know how you think you're happy in life and you realize you weren't? So I think I was just going through the motions because it was, you know, it just kind of fell in my lap, you know, the construction, the project management, and then this big, and it is a big, huge, like, burst that comes into your life, right? Changes everything.
Everything.
And so I was like, well, I'm going to go be a nurse. That'll, you know, that'll put me in the, no.
No, it has nothing to do with that.
It has nothing to do with it. So, yeah, so I don't know, I just learned everything that I could. I don't know. I just wanted to know everything. I wanted my child, number one, and I know you thought this too, I wanted my child not to have autism. I wanted him to get better. I wanted it to go away.
To get cured.
I wanted a cure. I wanted, you know, and my dad still says all the time, I think he's getting better, don't you, sissy? And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with him to begin with.
Yes.
But however, he has stopped doing such and such. And
Yeah.
that is great progress for him, you know.
Yeah.
He is eating in front of you now. That's awesome, right, Dad? But there's nothing wrong with him to get better. He's
Sure.
just your grandson, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And you know, then my niece ended up being autistic, and so he's getting double whammy. He doesn't know what to say. He's like, "Is she going to get better, sissy?" You know?
The question is going on.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with her, Dad. You know, but people who don't know, just like me, I didn't know.
Sure.
You know, my husband didn't know.
Yeah.
He was like, "So he can't play football?" You know?
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, well, we don't know, but we're gonna try.
Yeah.
And I highly advise, if your child's able to play sports and they're a teenager, put them in sports.
Yeah, that's the best thing. Yeah.
Put them in sports. It gives them socialization skills, motor skills, everything that they need. And you're going to find, especially with your teenagers, that there is going to be something that they excel at. And you'll find it early on when they're 6, 7, 8-ish. Something that they excel at, play on that, build on it as high as you can build it. You know, if it's sports, build on that sport. If it's painting, build on arts.
Yes.
You know, if it's reading, build on reading.
Or technology.
Yeah.
Some of them are like,
Gamers, great
Yeah,
gamers, or
yeah.
they can sit there and find things and I'm just like, how did they even just do that? Most definitely.
Yeah.
Build on whatever strength you find.
yeah. Fatty loves swimming, so we're gonna start doing.
There you
swimming.
go.
Yeah.
She'll be in the Olympics one day.
Yeah, she's like persistent if
Exactly.
she wants something. Yeah.
Exactly. Headstrong. And wasn't it Albert Einstein who they said was autistic?
Yes, yes, yes.
One of the greatest mathematicians in the
Yeah.
world, still known to this day.
You know what they told his mom? They throw him out of school, and they said he's not going to be nothing, and he's never going to learn anything, and you know, and then the mother told the child, her son, and said, "You're going to be something great. They just don't know.
That's right.
They just don't
And that's
know."
how you should approach it. Really, that's how. And I, you know, I tell my son, because a lot of autistic children, when they get to be in their teens, they'll go through the I'm stupid.
Yeah.
You know, why am I like this? I'm so dumb. And I'm like, you're the smartest kid I know.
Yeah.
You know, he mixes music. And I'm like, you got more music talent in your pinky than half of these people have, you know, that are out here making millions of dollars selling records, you know. Build on it. Let's build on it. You know, and that's what you do. Find the one thing they're good at and build on it.
That question comes up with me always. Should we tell our kids that they have autism or not? So one of the mother asked me this question, and I was like, I don't know. I'm going to wait for Judy to come. I'm going to ask her.
Yeah. You don't want other kids, because high school's bad.
Yeah.
You don't want other kids to tell them that they're the R word. I won't even say the word.
Yeah.
You don't want them to tell them that because they're going to say things like that.
Yeah.
And they're going to say it around them. And my son is very smart, and that's what he was being bullied because he was different, right? And they'd be like, what are you, R? What are you, autistic? What are you, special? Or do you ride the special bus? That's how they would. So I messed up by not telling my son. But I think it's something that you should kind of fill out and see. I would advise always letting them know it is their medical history.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. And they have to know.
They have to know. But
And
they have to be able to understand.
Prepare them too for what's coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you don't want to tell them until you think they'll be able to understand. Like, I wouldn't go to Fari right now and be like, you're autistic.
Yeah.
She's too young.
She won't understand.
No, she won't understand that. If they're teenagers and they're getting ready to go into like middle school, junior high or high school, and you feel like they can understand, sit them down and be like, this is your diagnosis, or your diagnosis is, because a lot of times there's multiple, right? When we first were dealing with this, you only ate two foods, and you only said 5 words, and now look at you, you're in general education class, you've got 2 high school credits, you're going into the 9th grade, freshman in high school, but you are a little bit different than them, so, if they say anything to you, ignore it. If it makes you angry, come back and tell me about it, or tell a teacher about it, because you don't want them to be tattletales either when they're teenagers.
Yes.
Because if they start tattling, they're going to get bullied even worse.
Yeah.
Which is my mistake that I made, and we all learn from our mistakes. So I was like, go tell the teacher, tell the teacher, tell the teacher.
The teacher don't do
He got
anything.
bullied so bad for that. So bad for that. Don't go tell the teacher, don't do it. Just you need to explain to them, come home and tell mom, and mom will discuss it, because if he's jumping up or raising his hand and so-and-so's saying this to me, it's drawing more unwanted attention to them, and everybody in the room's hearing it. And so yes, I think that you should definitely talk to them if they are able to functionally understand what you are saying. I would tell them about their diagnosis. If they're not able to functionally understand it, don't bother.
What about telling them their strengths and weaknesses?
Always.
Yes.
Always look in the mirror every day and tell them their strengths and weaknesses. You are brave, you are smart, you are kind, you can ride a bike, you write your name, you can do this. And when you point out their weaknesses, don't let them know you're pointing out their weaknesses. In ABA, we use 4 to 1 when we're giving feedback, right? So 4 positive reinforcers for every 1 corrective feedback that we're giving. That's the same way I would do when I was dealing with strengths and weaknesses. We need to work on math, but oh my gosh, you did so great on that spelling test. That spelling test was amazing, and look at your artwork.
You're balancing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Don't sandwich it. So when I was first coming up in ABA, they said always sandwich it. Give a positive, negative in the middle, and positive at the end. It all starts to be negative if you do that.
Yeah.
You're even negatively reinforcing the bad thing that you were saying. Everything's getting reinforcement. It's all over the place, so nothing's reinforcing anymore. 4 to 1. That's the new standard. I use it in my supervision with my BTs, and I find that it works amazingly well. All my BTs are fabulous, though, so they don't really need the 4 to 1. But I do the same with my son. I do the same with my neurotypical daughters. I do the same with my dad sometimes. I mean, my boyfriend, anybody who needs it, I'll 4 to 1 you all day long. I ABA my cats. I ABA my dog. Try again. I do it.
That's cool.
He'll jump up on me. I'll be like, try again. We're not going to do that. I ABA everything. ABA works.
Yeah.
It's just, you know what it is? It's parenting on steroids.
Yes.
That's all it is.
That's APA.
Parenting on steroids, especially with teenagers. Parenting on steroids. That's all it is. So you just, whatever you would do with a neurotypical child, just do it 10 times more, 10 times harder with an autistic child. That's it.
Every kid will learn eventually, but it needs some need more, some need less.
That's right. And not true, because some are incapable of learning some things. And then we have to make sure that we accept that and understand that and don't push too hard to where we create behaviors because we're pushing so hard. So there needs to be a fine balance. They need to be involved. They need to communicate with any and all therapists, any and all teachers. You want all the feedback that you can get, so that you can see if this child who's not talking at 12 years old, are they just never ever going to be able to talk? If that's it, then we need to really push the sign language. Because if I continuously push them to speak and I'm too hard on them to try to get them to speak verbally, that is, it could cause them to become aggressive. It could cause them to elope. It could cause them to have anxiety. It can, it can cause a lot of different behaviors if you push for something that medically they're incapable of being able to do. So always, in ABA, we always rule out that it's a medical problem first. If that's ruled out, then we'll work on the behavior.
Yes.
It's like a child who doesn't want to eat. How do you know that it's not something that's physically wrong with them why they can't
Toothache
eat?
or
Exactly.
they have something.
Medically, you want to get that out of the way first, and then if the behavior is still there,
there's something else
then
going on. Yeah, that's what I always tell them. Always check the body first.
That's right. Check the body first. You're 100% right.
Yeah. So it doesn't. We know if it's they're gonna have a toothache or swallowing problems or stuff like that. If it's not there, okay, let's go and see what's going on. So, what do you give a mother with a teenager autistic kid as an advice?
Good luck. Look, it's just like it is with any neurotypical teenager, except on steroids. The same thing. So you have to have patience. You have to, and it's hard to have patience when they're talking back to you now, or even physically, being more aggressive in nature because they're teenagers. That could be typical teenage behavior also. Even if it might not be a behavior because they're autistic, it could be just typical hormonal change behaviors. Make sure that they can communicate to you.
Talk.
Not talk, communicate. If it's through pictures, if it's through an augmentative device.
So you mean they can express themselves?
Make sure they can express anything and everything to you. No matter how they have to do it.
Yeah.
Like I said, my son's very vocal. My son's fluently vocal. My son uses big words, And did you know that autism can be cured? Just that my son was just recently taken off of the DSM-5. He's 17 years old. He's taken off the DSM-5 because he doesn't have stereotypic behaviors anymore. He does. But they didn't see them. Do you know why they didn't see them? Because I taught him, squeeze your hands when you want to, because he did this all the time as a student. A lot of kids do this, or they flap. I taught him to squeeze his hands and his lap so that they can't see it. And now he shakes his foot like this. But they're not looking for that. They're looking for the...
Yeah, they're looking for the typical way.
Yeah. But good, my son's off the spectrum. Really?
We still have more challenges to go.
Yeah, there's still, because they just have a list of diagnoses. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now, he's not autistic, he's depressed, but depressed, PTSD, bipolar disorder. My son's on the DSM-5, and and he's just a teenager.
Yes.
He's just a teenager.
When we were teenagers, we were one day happy,
one
day
day
sad, for no reason.
Writing in our journals, my whole life is over.
I'm gonna die. No more hope.
Nobody loves me. Same thing. It's going to be the same thing, except they're autistic, so it's that on steroids.
True.
Yeah. There are levels to autism, and you know that. So depending on what level they are, be careful. Watch out for. I had a lot of teenage clients when I worked at the clinic. Boys, teenage boys, porn. They're going to go searching for it. Don't freak out. If you make a big, huge deal about it, just explain to them the anatomy of the body and the difference between females and males. Go buy books. They have all kinds of books on that.
Yes.
Explain to them what's the changes that are going on in their body, because those things can get out of control. They'll start touching inappropriately, not realizing why they're doing it. Boys and girls, actually.
True.
Girls, will think it's okay to undress in front of boys, and can be easily persuaded to do so because they're on the spectrum. So like I said, communicate. Keep open your lines of communication. 12, puberty. Let's start talking about what to do and what not to do. Here's a social story about it. We don't do this. We keep our private areas covered at all times. We don't touch. This is red zone. This is green zone. This is yellow zone of personal space. Start teaching those things. They will understand, especially with pictures. You've got to stay on top of it. You can't wait until you get a phone call from the school that your son has inappropriately touched a girl. If you have a teenager, make sure they are aware of what's proper, what's improper, what's safe, what's not safe, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable.
Yeah, that's important. That's very important.
Because they're getting up there in age. I taught my son how to fit in and how to not be noticed, because that's what he wanted me to teach him.
Oh, that's what he asked for.
Yeah, he asked for it. So because he didn't want people to say anything about him doing this, so I taught him how to stop doing it, because that stuff didn't bother me. They've got to get their angst and their sensory overload out some way, somehow. So that didn't bother me. It bothered him. And when he was able to tell me it bothered him is when we were able to tone it down, to where it wasn't noticeable, to where he felt more accepted, and like people weren't looking at him like he was different. So find out what they realize and what they don't realize. Find out what they need and what they need you to help them with to make them feel more comfortable
around people.
That's right. More socially acceptable. That's what my son always tells me. I'm not socially acceptable. Yes, you are.
You are.
Yes, you are. How are you not?
Yeah.
How are you not socially acceptable? Just do your best. I mean, raising a neurotypical teenager is hard.
Yeah, it is.
So, because I raised 2 girls, who were neurotypical, and my son's been no different.
Same thing.
Same thing. A little, I'm not even going to say, my girls actually were more trouble, sneaking out and stuff. He would never do nothing like that, talking to boys on the phone until 2 o'clock in the morning. He's tired. He wants to go to sleep.
I'm not bothered.
He's not bothered with that. But it's the same thing, just a different way. I'm teaching him the same things that I taught them. Just I'm teaching him in a different way, a way that he'll understand.
Yeah. That's a great advice for the mothers, because they're all having these difficulties, and also there is some mothers that they pretend that the child is cured completely, and he's a teenager, and we know that he's struggling in some areas, but they don't admit it.
Yeah. I mean, even doctors try to tell you that it's always there.
Yes.
It's not going to go away. They have deficits, and you need to continuously work on those deficits, because there is such thing as regression.
Yes.
And if you don't work on them, I don't care if they're teenagers, they can still regress.
Yes.
I don't care. There is no cure for autism. If you're autistic, you're autistic.
Yeah.
Can you decrease your deficits? Yes.
Yes.
Can you learn how to blend in?
Yes.
Yes. You can do all those things. Can you be in a general education classroom? Most definitely.
Yes, you can.
And can you get the same education and walk across the stage like they can? Most definitely. Is it going to be harder for you? 100 times harder. Because not only are you trying to do the schoolwork, you're also trying to make sure that you don't, wiggle your, and this is just from, wiggle your fingers and draw attention to yourself, or let yourself get so frustrated and so angry that you can't control it anymore because your anger is explosive, which is part of being on the spectrum, and you're slinging stuff and throwing things and trying to snatch up people. So it's 100 times harder, but they can do it.
They can do it. Yeah.
They can do it.
Yeah. I think it's starting also with young age it helps a lot.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Like I said, the young brains, and I believe it's research driven that says up to 7 years old are the most, is when they retain the most information, they absorb the most information.
A lot of good information.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming and giving me the chance to interview you and get all of this amazing information that we can help the mothers. And I just got a lot of information. It's amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
First, for what you're doing with Fatty. Second, for this interview. Third, you're a very kind person. Whatever you're doing for all the kids around. This is very, very important. And thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
الحين خلصنا اللقاء. الحمد لله على النعم التي لا تعد ولا تحصى وعلى النعم التي لم ندركها بعد. لا تنسون الشير واللايك وسبسكرايب علشان توصل لكم كل الفيديوهات المفيدة. ومع السلامة وإلى اللقاء.